Today is a good day. We've got 1,500 ounces to try and get this season, but as long as we stay steady from here on out, we'll be looking real good.
This is the story of a discovery that should not have been possible. Rick Ness, on the verge of financial ruin, targeted a section of his mine that was considered worthless, a deep, water-filled hole. We're going to talk about how he found an incredible abandoned gold patch.
Yeah, I'm right down on the very bottom of Raleigh Valley right now, right near the sump hole, and it looks like it's all bedrock now. Can you come, take a look, and figure out what to do next here?
But you won't believe the shocking size of the nuggets he pulled from the mud, or the unbelievable final total that dwarfed even his wildest expectations. This is how a single desperate decision in a forgotten corner of the Yukon led to a $250,000 payday that saved his operation. Sunken treasure. The start of Rick Ness's season was, to put it mildly, a complete catastrophe. His primary wash plant, Monster Red, was running perfectly for the first time, but the ground he was feeding it was barely paying for the fuel to keep it running. The pressure was immense. He had a goal of 1,500 ounces, a number that seemed more like a fantasy with each passing day. His entire operation hinged on what lay at the bottom of Raleigh Valley, a deep cut that had been a source of frustration for 3 long years. The most shocking fact is that this valley was fighting back with everything it had. The main enemy wasn't rock or permafrost, it was water. An endless torrent of groundwater was seeping into the cut, turning it into a treacherous, muddy lake. A single pump, desperately needed to feed Monster Red, was the only thing keeping the operation alive, which meant there were no other pumps available to dewater the pit. This left his rock truck operator, Bailey Carton, in an almost impossible situation. He was digging 200 feet down, completely blind, scooping out bucket after bucket of what he hoped was pay dirt from under 10 feet of murky water. It was like trying to find a needle in a haystack, if the haystack was underwater and the size of a football field. Every scoop was a guess. The constant fear was that he was scraping away barren gravel, or even worse, missing the pay layer entirely. The water level was relentless, a constant reminder that they were on borrowed time. Bailey's voice crackled over the radio, a mix of frustration and uncertainty. He thought he was hitting something different, a harder layer that felt like bedrock.
All the stuff that I'm digging out of this hole right now, it slightly looks like bedrock a little bit.
For a miner, bedrock is the holy grail. It's the ancient, impermeable floor of a waterway where, over millennia, the heaviest gold settles and concentrates. If Bailey had truly hit bedrock, they were on the cusp of the richest ground in the entire valley. But the thing nobody tells you is that seeing it through 10 feet of water is nearly impossible. Rick rushed to the edge of the pit. He'd been dreaming of this moment for years. Peering into the soupy mess, he could just make out the telltale signs. A distinct rim and fine, dense gravel that bedrock is famous for holding. It was the confirmation he needed. This was it. For the first time, after years of digging, they had reached the very bottom of Raleigh Valley.
We've got a lot planned for this season, but number one priority above all else was getting to the bottom of Raleigh.
They were the first human beings to ever lay eyes on this prehistoric surface. The excitement was electric, a jolt of adrenaline for a crew that desperately needed it. They were on the verge of the best gold of their lives, a deposit that could be worth a fortune. But not all things are what they seem. Hitting bedrock in one spot was one thing. Chasing it across the entire length of the cut while being submerged was another challenge entirely. They now had to follow this ancient layer, this golden pathway, and excavate every last ounce of pay dirt before the entire pit was lost to the flood. The race was on, a high-stakes battle against time and the elements. But hitting bedrock was only the beginning of their problems. Monster Red's secret. The discovery of the bedrock rim sent a wave of renewed energy through Rick's crew. This wasn't just dirt anymore. It was a treasure map laid out by nature millions of years ago. The plan was simple, yet incredibly difficult. Follow that bedrock layer, no matter where it led. This ancient riverbed held the key to their season, and every bucket Bailey pulled from the watery depths was now loaded with potential. The stress was palpable. Down in the pit, Bailey had to deal with the constant threat of the rising water, while up top, the crew running Monster Red could only hope that the ground they were feeding it was as rich as Rick believed. And you can see this everywhere in the Yukon. The line between a season-ending discovery and a bank-breaking bust is razor thin. Rick, a man not known for his patience, couldn't wait for the official cleanup. He needed to know now. He headed over to Monster Red and gave the order to shut it down for a quick spot check. The thing is, until you see the color of gold in the sluice box, a miner's hope is just wishful thinking. He needed to lay his own eyes on it, to calm the nerves that had been frayed for months. As the water cleared from the mats, his heart pounded in his chest. And then he saw it. It started with one, a beautiful, chunky nugget lying right on top of the riffles. Then another, this one even thicker. The crew gathered around, their disbelief turning to elation. These weren't just flakes. They were substantial, heavy pieces of gold, some of the biggest they had ever found on the claim. One after another, they plucked the nuggets from the mat, each one a confirmation that their gamble was paying off. One particular nugget was the biggest yet, a stunning piece of raw gold that felt heavy and real in Rick's hand. This was the kind of gold that could turn a season around in a single day. This initial handful of nuggets alone represented a small fortune, easily tens of thousands of dollars. It was proof that they were on the best part of Rally Valley. This incredible find completely changed the atmosphere of the camp. The weight of a failing season was lifted. Rick knew the gold was there, but seeing it, feeling its weight, solved a world of problems.
You know, until you see it in the box, you're always tentative, you're always nervous.
They were back in the game. This was the legendary ground he had been searching for. The discovery of these monster nuggets confirmed that the abandoned patch was anything but barren. It was a treasure chest, and they had just found the key. All they had to do now was run the rest of it, every single yard, before the water claimed it for good. The excitement was off the charts. They were on track to have a golden year. The nuggets were incredible, but could the fine gold match this haul? Heavier than expected. With the first major cleanup from the bedrock pay dirt complete, an air of nervous excitement filled the gold room. This was the moment of truth that would define their entire season. Rick brought the whole crew together for the weigh-in, including his trusted mine manager, Jason Folster, and gold recovery specialist, Heather Folster. The team was assembled, the old, battle-scarred scale was zeroed out, and the jars of glittering gold concentrate were ready. The memory of their final gold weigh last season, an impressive 251 ounces, was fresh in their minds. But the word around the claim was that this cleanup from the legendary bedrock could be even bigger. Bailey, the operator who had painstakingly dug out the pay dirt from the flooded pit, was given the honor of handling the gold. The first jar was heavy, a good sign. As he poured the gold onto the scale, the room fell silent, the only sound the metallic clinking of gold on metal. The numbers on the scale climbed rapidly, blowing past 50, then 100 ounces. It finally settled at a massive 115.71 ounces. For a single jar, it was a fantastic result, a haul worth well over $200,000. The crew erupted in cheers. It was a great start, but then came the twist. Many people are crazy about a good surprise, and Rick had a big one planned. With a grin, he announced that wasn't all of it.
I've never put that much gold on the table at once.
He'd been sandbagging them. He produced another, even heavier container filled with the nuggets they had picked earlier, plus all the remaining fine gold. This pour was even more spectacular. A river of gold flowed onto the scale, piling up into a small mountain of wealth. The sheer volume was breathtaking. Buzz, the crew's mechanic who had been sitting back, jumped to his feet to get a closer look, his eyes wide with disbelief. When the final tally was announced, the number was so big it seemed unreal. 315.71 ounces. At the current gold price, that single cleanup was worth over $750,000. They hadn't just beaten their old record, they had completely shattered it. It was the single biggest gold haul of Rick's career as a mine boss, a life-changing amount of gold pulled from a patch of ground that others had dismissed as worthless. The celebration was wild, a release of months of pent-up stress and anxiety. They had hit the jackpot. The crew celebrated, but a nagging question remained for many watching. Beyond the gold, was it luck? It's easy to watch a massive gold weigh like that and think it all happened overnight. Many viewers watching from their living rooms probably wondered, is this real? Did he just stumble upon a random patch of ground and pull out a fortune? Are we missing a key detail? The thing is, you are. What many overlooked is the brutal reality behind that moment of triumph. That $750,000 cleanup wasn't the result of a single lucky day. It was the culmination of years of relentless struggle, crippling debt, and unwavering perseverance. Let's be absolutely clear on this, Because the romanticized narrative of a lucky prospector stumbling upon a forgotten treasure does a profound disservice to the truth. There was no abandoned gold patch that Rick just magically discovered, no long-lost honey hole left behind by miners of a bygone era. The reality is far grittier, more expensive, and infinitely more impressive. The ground in question, a section of his own claim grimly nicknamed Rally Valley, was a place of immense frustration and a testament to the brutal challenges of modern mining. This wasn't a discovery, it was a conquest. For 3 long, punishing years, that specific piece of ground had been Rick's white whale. It was a section he had been investing in, strategizing over, and battling with season after season. The abandonment that occurred wasn't a historical footnote from the 1890s. It was the very real, very recent despair of his own crew. They had nearly given up on it themselves. Men who had signed on for the promise of gold were left staring at a pit that swallowed money, time, and morale.
We've got a lot planned for this season, but number one priority above all else was getting to the bottom of Rally Valley.
The ground was difficult, the overburden was thick, and the pay dirt was infuriatingly elusive. The nickname Rally Valley was born from a desperate need to boost morale, a place where the crew had to rally their spirits just to face another day of seemingly fruitless labor. It was a place defined by broken equipment, frozen earth, and the ever-present question of whether to finally cut their losses. This triumph was not born from a lucky guess or a swing of a pickaxe in a random spot. It was earned through an intimate, hard-won knowledge of his own land. It came from walking that ground until its contours were memorized, from understanding its subtle shifts and geological quirks in a way no outsider ever could. This deep familiarity was supplemented by countless hours spent away from the dirt, hunched over geological maps and historical surveys, trying to decipher the story the Earth was trying to tell. He was tracing ancient water channels, theorizing about bedrock formations, and cross-referencing his own disappointing test results with the data, searching for a pattern that everyone else had missed. It was an intellectual obsession, a puzzle he refused to let beat him. You see that massive payday and think they've struck it rich, but the thing nobody tells you is how fast that mountain of cash disappears. The most shocking fact is the burn rate. A single large dozer can guzzle over 150 gallons of diesel in a 12-hour shift. Given the crazy fuel prices in a remote place like the Yukon, that's thousands of dollars gone each day just to run one machine. But not all things are what they seem. When you multiply that by a whole fleet of excavators, massive rock trucks, and the wash plant running non-stop, the weekly fuel bill alone can skyrocket past $50,000. And that's just the beginning. You still have to cover the payroll for the entire crew, the insane cost of keeping old machines running, and the royalties paid to the landowner for every ounce of gold found. Suddenly, you realize that a $750,000 payday doesn't mean you're wealthy. To put it mildly, it just buys you another month in the game. It's an endless, high-stakes gamble between hitting the mother lode and going completely broke. For every success story like Rick's, there are 100 miners who lost everything chasing that same dream. This wasn't hitting the lottery. It was just barely paying off the enormous debts of a season that almost ended in disaster. That gold was the result of hard work, but does luck play a bigger role than miners admit? Let us know what you think below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.